Sound check, 1, 2.
This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
He knows as soon as he gives it to her, he's gonna give her his heart to her too.
And we'll have kids and get married.
That's too far.
Holy shit.
217 Recovery Podcast. My name is Corey Winfield. Appreciate you finding us today. And there's lots of podcasts, lots of things you can listen to. And of course, we try to keep it recovery related as much as we can. And joining me today is a very special man. He's dear to my heart. I would say he touches me, but it's more, I think, like I touch him. Jamie, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm doing good, man. You kind of had me worried today a little bit, a lot.
On which part? With the coronavirus?
Well, yeah, because you texted me, and we'll get into why you scared me in just a little bit. But first, let's do a little backstory about how we met and the first time where we ran through a field naked, holding hands. It was just a memorable thing.
Remember, I was the Tiger King. You were the husband.
No, Jamie and I, we met. It was my 15th time at rehab, and it was Jamie's first time at rehab. And
it was.
I got in late that night. I went into the room. Didn't really know who my roommates were too much. Got up the next morning. You guys were already gone, I believe. And there was a table. There was like a meeting. Everybody went around the room and talked about how they feel. And then you stand up and you just let people have it. And you... I remember, I was like, this poor guy, like, this must be his first rehab. Because you were telling people that were at the rehab that, you know, they shouldn't be staying there. They shouldn't bring their drugs into your community because you were from there. And a lot of people that were at the facility weren't. So you were like, nuh-uh, you take that stuff out. Don't be bringing that here. I'll kill you. My kids have that stuff. And
right, my kids are from the community and such, and it was an honesty stone. So after every nasty person touched it, remember, they wanted me to touch that stone too.
Yeah.
So I was on double alert.
Like some of these guys in there, you know, they were full of it, and a lot of times you go to rehab, people are. And the place that we were at, there were quite a few people, but you know, and sometimes they don't even realize they're full of it. But you could tell the ones that were shady and just trying to say the right things, and it is what it is. But you just were just so beside yourself, like you couldn't believe all these people were in your backyard. And
well, another thing to remind everybody is I am a Marine, and I have some pretty severe PTSD. I've got OCD, and I am from where we were in the rehab at. And the stories that were being told, again, there was probably 30 people in there telling all these stories about the drugs. And you know, I lived in this rainbows and unicorn world where there was no drugs in my community. Everybody was bringing them up here. You know, these people that were in that rehab, they kept saying they were going to stay in our community. And I'm like, nope. You're going to go. You go back to where you're from, and I'm going to live up here in my fairy tale land.
Which is kind of funny, but it is and it's not. But for someone in their first rehab, that's probably how it goes. I mean, you were probably not scared, but like just cautious and
worried.
Yeah, like what the hell is going on? All these thugs up here. Like, I mean, some of them look like straight up thugs. You know, like some of them look like they were about to die any minute. You know, and then you got some of the women. I mean, it takes all kinds of people. Some with money, some without money. You know, I saw everything but a midget when I was in rehab,
and that was too bad. You know, midgets make the world go round.
Yes, they do. but yeah, so you
listen, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory would not have been a hit without the midgets.
No, it wouldn't.
That's all I'm saying.
Nobody would have seen it. They'd been like, "That's stupid."
Nope.
Some pedophile trying to get kids to go check out his factory, but then you had the midgets, and you're like, "Oh, this is some cool stuff.
This is cool, man. It's okay. We're not going to touch you. We're not going to send you off to a secret room where nobody else sees you again.
I want to go down this chocolate river." Mm-hmm. You think about it without the midgets.
It's just not fun.
No, totally different thing, man.
It's a total petty show.
Yes. Gotta have little people in there because they're adults, but they're little, so it's fun.
So
Shout
yeah,
out
it's
to
okay.
little people of America. Much love.
There you go.
But so when you said that, some of the people were like, I took offense to it. I didn't, because I wasn't from there either, So I wasn't from there, so I didn't really have any skin in the game. But I just kind of thought, man, this guy's first rehab must be. And I find out, I'm like, oh, that's my roommate. Like, okay, that guy is all right. Okay, all right. And I got to know you a little bit, actually a lot, and kind of opened my eyes and took me back to my first rehab and my first experiences and where I was, at that time, thinking that here's what I need to do. And I just pray to God that I can do it. And, you were worried still. And then some things went down where some guy said he was in the military. You took offense to that big time and almost ended his addiction problem for him right there. As well as every other problem that he had in life. But so that kind of went down, and they made you out to be the bad guy when no, you're just coming off of alcohol, and little did you know at the time, all the pain meds you were on were opiates, and that you kind of learned along the way too. And you're like, wait a minute, so I'm not only withdrawing from alcohol, I'm withdrawing from that too. You're like, no wonder I feel like crap and edgy and irritated.
I was absolutely under the I guess you could call it a facade, or under the belief that I wasn't addicted to opiates because they were prescribed to me. The VA was giving them to me. I had pain doctors giving them to me. So therefore, I wasn't an addict. I wasn't out buying them off the street. I wasn't doing what we've talked about quite a few times, quote unquote dirty drugs, the cocaine, the heroin, the crack. I wasn't doing that, the crystal meth. Those are all dirty drugs. Those are things you buy off the street. With my, clean facade that I had, I was getting painkillers from a doctor, so I wasn't addicted. Mm-hmm. I wasn't an addict because they were giving them to me. Little did I know I was very much addicted to them.
Mm-hmm. And then you realize it's all dirty, really. And
right, I'm paying for it one way or another.
Yeah.
It's just I'm paying the pharmaceutical companies instead of a guy on the street on the corner.
Mm-hmm. And, lucky for you, they kept giving that stuff to you, because it could have easily have been, hey, man, you want a better thing? You want something better? And you would have been like, yeah, what do I got to do? Right. Well, here, man, crush these up and snort these. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's heroin. What? No. Yeah, man, it's even better. And once you do it, and you're like, wow, that is better. And, oh, you want something even better than that? Here, man, put this in your arm. And then, and if you're anything like me, when you start drinking, the sure, let's go comes out real quick. And all the times where you would say to yourself, oh, I'm never shooting up. I'm never snorting that. I'm never doing that ever. Get a fifth in you and let's do it.
Right. It can change your opinion in a heartbeat. There's a lot of things you make bad choices on when you're drinking.
Sexual relationship.
Most of them. But to fast forward a little bit, because I just heard something again. I took back to drinking after that. It was a while after that, but I took back to it. And of course, I thought I could handle it. I really did. I learned everything that I needed to learn, and I can. I'll tell you a funny story. Is my kid is an alcoholic, but he's a different alcoholic than I am. Okay, he's a guy that he can go a month, 2 months without drinking, but once he starts, he doesn't stop until he's in jail. Period. And we were having a serious conversation. I said, son, you're a different alcoholic than I am. You're a one night stand alcoholic. I'm a romancer. I mean, I take that stuff and you go to the bar, you hit it up, you pick her up and you take it home and you knock it down and she leaves in the next morning. I romance it. I hold her hand, that's that little shot that I take. I kiss her, that's that pint I'm drinking in the morning, just enough. And the next thing you know, I'm tied up in a torture chamber with a ball gag in my mouth and a dildo up my ass waiting to die with that half gallon I'm drinking. And it's two different alcoholics. So that make sense? I mean, I romance it until I die. He just drinks it, goes to jail, and gets out. He's a one-night stander.
Yeah, for him, I think it's the same, in my opinion, as a professional radio broadcaster. Not a therapist, counselor, or anything. I just have a lot of experience. But I think it's very dangerous for him, for your son.
It is.
And because the jail time is not fun. I mean, I didn't go to the jail for the first time until beginning or end of 2018. That was the first time, and I have been a career drinker, and same thing with you. You have to wake up in the morning, and I never really, unless it was the weekend, if I had to go to work, I would just start shaking around noon and try to cut out of there as quick as I could. But on the weekend, I would have to drink, to stop the shakes. And it wasn't to get drunk. It was to just function, to live. And that's when, like you said, we become a prisoner. And there's nothing at that point, there's no choice. And I did a podcast the other night when I was talking about choices. We're now, and you got, 90 days, 97 days? 90?
I'm over 90 now. I'm a good bit into it. January 16th was my last day.
So you can start making...
December 16th. December.
So you can start making choices now.
Right.
This is, you can live a life that you choose now. When we were in our active addiction, we seriously did not have a choice. We had to have the alcohol to get out of bed, to function. And that's just how it was. But now, I was thinking about it the other day, like the things that I'm doing in life and the way I'm living are choices. That's the way I choose to live. And, you have that same capability now, and it's brilliant. And those little choices that you make, whether it be to send an email, to do a podcast with your buddy Corey, those little choices that you're making today that might not seem like a big deal, tomorrow, the next day, and a week from now, might seem like a huge deal. Jamie, we talked about doing this podcast thing when I was in treatment. You had left and you went to the VA, and I talked to like, hey man, we got to get this thing, and I wasn't playing. I was like, I'm gonna get this thing going, and we're gonna start a company, we're gonna do a business. And,
for sure.
Who knows, Jamie, maybe doing this podcast now will kind of maybe not light a fire, but give you something that you like, that you didn't even know was out there. Can you imagine, Jamie, being, whether it be, let's just say like at boot camp or whatever, they decide, hey, what we're going to do? We're going to bring a guy in to talk to people about addiction because this is a huge problem. And what if they brought you in and that's all you did, Jamie? As you walked, you drove around and you talked to people in the military, or not even in the military. What if you went to high schools and you just say, hey, look, I'm a Marine. People are going to respect you and listen to you just right after that. And if you can open up and be vulnerable and say, look, I'm a big tough guy, but I had a problem, but I didn't lose to it.
Here you go. This is the one thing that I would like to do is work with some other vets, because the PTSD and the alcohol go hand in hand. I mean, they are a marriage made in heaven. You try to drink away everything that you know and everything you've been through, and it just worsens the problem. It does. It makes you want to go start a 9mm, and that's not the answer. But that's what's going on with us, because we are the big tough guys. We are the guys that can't. Everybody comes to us to solve the problem because we're leaders. And I'm not being arrogant or cocky here. I'm saying how it is, because we can't be vulnerable. So, an example was this time when I went to the PTSD rehab clinic in Bath, New York. I just got back, as you know. I said, to hell with it. I'm going to let them know that, my ex-wife used to beat on me. I have a lot of things that I'm harboring and things that I hadn't brought out in the first rehab. And I felt like my mom died. I never dealt with it. Didn't go to a funeral. I said I was going to be okay. Held it in. A lot of the OCD things that I do. I was going to hold all this in and not tell anybody. Well, when I got there, I said, I'm going to be vulnerable. And I cried a couple times. And the counselors came out. Now people started coming to me as a leader, because nobody wants to cry when you're in a room full of Marines and Rangers and Navy SEALs. And I cried. He's like, what you're doing is opening up for everybody else. Now everybody knows it's okay. They're looking at you and they're like, God dang, this guy can sit here and cry. I can too. I can say what's wrong with me, and